from a month. No, it was, I'm always forgetting her name.
That's right.
She's full-time prof, chemistry, Gen Chem. I can't remember off the top of my head. My wife will be mad at me.
They do have, yeah.
I'm at the lab tech there. It's phenomenal.
Ready to go?
Oh, it's really great. I tell my kids are ready.
4 of you all set and ready to party?
Yes, thank you.
Well, that's right, it's always a double.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome into the Schaumburg Library. My name is Chris. I'm the Adult Programs Coordinator here at the library, and I'm so happy to once again be partnering with our chapter of the League of Women Voters of the Palatine, Barrington, and Schaumburg area. One of these days, I will say that without pausing. We are so excited. We have this amazing panel lined up for y'all tonight, but before I hand things over to my friends from the League of Women Voters, just a few of our friendly library reminders for our in-person and online audience. We'll start with in-person. If you are in-person, if you could take a moment to silence your cell phones and all other electronic devices you might have on you that may make noise during the program, as lights and sounds emitted by those devices are distracting to your fellow patrons as well as the speakers and our moderator. If at any point during the program you need a washroom, you can find those located right out that door over yonder under the exit sign. Ladies is immediately on the left. Gentlemen's is a little bit further down that wall, and there is a water fountain in between for your convenience if you need any water during the program. Those are, oh, and then for questions, you might have noticed in-person audience that I'm holding 2 microphones. This one is for you. This one is for my friends online. And since I don't have a billion of these, I'm going to have the League of Women Voters, my friends Chris and Katie, I believe, are handing out little note cards with pens that you guys can write any questions down that you have for our panelists. They'll bring them up to our moderator here, and she'll make sure to field those questions as we go. And if you're online and you're like, hey, are they going to drive one of those note cards to my house? No, but you have a Q&A function on your Zoom, and my moderator here has a tablet up here at the podium. She'll be able to see all of those questions come in and be able to add those in as we go through our conversation this evening as well. So make sure if you're online that you don't be shy, you use that Q&A feature. If at any point online you're also experiencing some technical difficulties, you can throw those in the Q&A. I will handle those, and so I'll be monitoring the Q&A as well, just in case you're experiencing any difficulties. You'll also notice that we've enabled closed captions, and you can turn those on or off as you wish using your Zoom toolbar. All right, I've taken up enough of y'all's time, so I'm going to hand things over to my friend Kathy from the League of Women Voters, and she'll introduce our panelists and our moderator. Here you go, Kathy.
Thank you. And I told Chris that I would speak loud enough so that the people in the room could hear me. Can you hear me okay? No? Okay. Then let me do, I can do both of these, right? Okay, hold on. There we go. Okay, we'll do both microphones. So good evening. And thank you for joining the League of Women Voters of Palatine, Barrington, and Schaumburg areas. PBS. PBS, okay? Yeah, once you get that, it'll flow easier. And also the Schaumburg Township District Library for our civic awareness discussion this evening on the state of education. I'm Kathy Kleva. I'm the vice president of the local league this year, and also co-chair of the events committee that works with the library on this event. Before we start, I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about the league. We are a political, nonpartisan organization, and our mission is to increase voter awareness and engagement, and also defend democracy. We welcome the energy and age of all people, any age, any gender, are welcome to join us at the League. If you're looking for more information or would like to join, we have a membership table at the back, and I think we also have the link in the chat.
We will?
We will have the link in the chat shortly. So we hope you'll be able to join us. Tonight we're thrilled to have with us a panel of school board members, educators, and administrators who are going to be discussing the state of education. They include, I'm going to start with Jeff at the end. Jeff? Jeff, excuse me. Jeff Julian is the Vice President of External Affairs at Harper College. Right? Okay, okay. Dr. Ruth Williams, right next to him, is Provost and Chief Academic Officer at Harper College. And then we have Nick Scipione, who is the Board President of District 54, Schaumburg District 54, and then Samantha Bray-Ader here in the end, who is the Board President of Community Consolidated School District 15 in Palatine. Our panel tonight will be moderated by Anna Klimkowitz, who you may have seen at other presentations here. Anna is a former board president and member of Township High School District 211. So we're really thrilled to have everyone here joining us for that. Chris also already mentioned questions and how those are going to be handled. Thanks everybody for coming this evening, and I'm going to turn it over to Anna.
All right. You get that?
All right. Thank you very, very much. We'll shift a little bit here, and then we can get started. So again, this is our presentation on the state of public education. And before we hear from our panelists, I'd like to take a few minutes to review what the Federal Department of Education does and what it regulates. Major changes have taken place within the Department of Education, and we continue to learn the ramifications of these changes. There's our panelists. What the Department of Education does do is accounts for about 3 to 5% of the federal budget. It does provide critical funding for public K through 12 schools. Our low-income children benefit from it with Title I funds, and our special education with the IDEA program. It administers the Pell Grants and loans, making college possible for many children, and that opens doors for them. The Department of Education regulates. They have control over local schools is primary financial, not necessarily operational. It cannot mandate curriculum, hire teachers, or run schools except in some special circumstances. The Department of Education does distribute billions of dollars in grant funding, and that funding comes with conditions that shape state and local education policies, and we've had that happen over the last couple of years. Our discussion topics are the curriculum, the state learning standards, social emotional learning and mental health, school safety, and school funding. So those are the topics we're going to cover. And tonight we'll look briefly also at our Illinois State Board of Education and how the State Board provides support to over 800 school districts in Illinois. So just to take a quick look at the state learning standards, and I do have a sample of one of the state learning standards for social emotional learning. It consists of 9 members, and they're appointed by the governor with the consent of the Senate. The board sets the educational policies and guidelines for the public and private schools and for the vocational education. The Illinois Learning Standards establish expectations of what all students should know and be able to do at each grade level. And that's really important so there's consistency within the state. It emphasizes depth over breadth, building upon the key concepts of students' advancement. And the standards are intentionally rigorous to prepare students for college and careers. And we do have some individuals that serve on the State Board of Education. They're well-versed in the needs of all of our students. Dr. Tony Sanders, who's our State Superintendent of Education, prior to that, he was the Superintendent of Elgin School District U46. And we also have Dr. Judy Hackett, who is the former Northwest Suburban Special Education Organization Superintendent. So they've got a foundation of what is important and how to support our students. So I do have available for our audience a sample of the social emotional learning standards, which is stated as a goal, and then that goal should be achieved along with the grade level performance description. So I do have those over here. We'll pass them out later. So what I'd like to start with, our first topic then is the curriculum. And we'll begin with Samantha. And the questions are, and how you can answer these, how is your school incorporating the state standards into the curriculum to develop the student growth? And then when we get to the college level, how are you working with the high schools to prepare the students for various careers? And we'll start with Samantha, please.
All right, can everybody hear me okay? All right. So District 15 is an elementary district, meaning we are essentially pre-K through 8th grade. We have 20 schools. We serve over 11,000 students, 80 languages spoken. We have a very diverse district. 30% of our student body identifies as Latino. 31% are English learners. And so when we think about curriculum, we really have to make sure that our curriculum is relevant to all of our student body. So certainly our curriculum is aligned with our Illinois learning standards. One of the core priorities of District 15 over the last about 6-7 years since our current superintendent, Dr. Hines, came into the leadership of District 15 is that we are revamping our curriculum. Some of our curricular materials were over 20 years old. So number one, they're outdated, and number two, they're irrelevant in a lot of cases to the students that we have in front of us. And so we have recently revamped our math, science, literacy curriculum to make sure that we are providing a relevant and high quality education. One of the things that I was really proud of that we did in that work of revamping was making sure that our educators were involved. So we had committees of principals, teachers, all helping to inform the selection of the curricular materials, which are then recommended to the board and approved by the board. A couple of areas of innovation that I would want to pull out. One is we have really focused on building out a digital and media literacy curriculum. As we know, making sure that our students are able to leverage critical thinking skills, analyze sources, make sure that they are having a deep understanding of making sure when they're looking at social media that they know what's real and what's fake. These are skills that are going to be even more important in the coming years as we see the rise of AI and other types of media. Another major area is our mental health and social and emotional curriculum. That has been something that we've invested a lot of resources in and is certainly connected to the student safety topic that we'll talk about in a little bit. But that's an area of focus. And then another area that I've been really proud of our district is our dual language programs. And so making sure that we are giving those that speak other languages the resources and support to be successful in our district and in our community. So those are a few things I would highlight.
All right, Nick, please.
Thanks so much, Anna. Thanks to the League. Thank you so much to the Schaumburg Library as well for the opportunity to talk about the state of education right now. Schaumburg District 54 has 28 schools, 15,000 students or so, very diverse population as well, like we heard about in District 15. I'm a product of District 54, and I can tell you this area has changed tremendously, right, since I was in the schools in the 90s and the 80s, right? And so we need to adapt as well, right, for our students and our population that we have and our families. Yes, 100% that our curriculum is based on the Illinois learning standards, right? We are, I think, an exceptional place of having resource guides and curriculum created with the same collaborative process where we're differentiating our learning standards to scaffold learning for all types of learners, right? And make sure that we extend it for our students that are looking for enrichment opportunities. I'm an educator as well, and we know that in the classroom we need to have a goal associated with our learning that happens every day. Where do those goals come from? Is from those learning standards. How did those learning standards develop, right? You have nationwide, right, educators coming to the table with future workforce folks saying, this is what we need, right, in the careers of the future. So we are educating students today for jobs that they'll be going to 15 years from now that might not even exist, right? So what are those skills that we're getting them ready for? We have a future ready task force in District 54 that are trying to outline those. How is AI going to be established in our classrooms and in the jobs of the future? right? We redesigned our math curriculum recently as well. And I tell a story that at Stanford University, they did a test of students who were in general chemistry, right? Their second semester general chemistry, 97% was the average on the final exam. They took the exact same test in the fall, 54% was the average. The days of drill and kill and just memorizing facts are over, right? We need students that are able to have those critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills, collaboration, right? That student voice, what's helpful for them as they go into the future, right? 54 is honored to have extracurricular activities, STEAM-related activities, Club Unify with our very increasing population of students in our special needs programs, right? The technology pieces that I referred to, we need to have students prepared for that in the future. And you only do that with a well-trained staff as well through professional development opportunities. So the foundation of the curriculum is imperative for our students to be successful in the future.
Ruth or Jeff, would you like to talk a little bit about the college level and the curriculums and the vocational programs that you have at Harper?
Yes, happy to. Thank you. Pleasure to be here this evening. Kind of looking at how we collaborate with our high schools on curriculum, we have something called the Northwest Educational Council for Student Success, or NEXUS. And so we have partnerships with District 211, 214, and 220, all three of our feeder high schools. And so this council is composed of the assistant superintendents as well as myself and then our vice president for workforce development. And the council is overseen by the board, which is the superintendents, and then Harper's president, Dr. Avis Proctor. And then within that, council oversees a very large working group, probably of over 30 to 40 people between the high schools and the college, to do a number of, to set goals and meet certain goals every year. And those specific to curriculum, in particular this year, is really about regional alignment. We're really focused on how do we align, continue to align and enhance that alignment between the high schools and the college. And so one way we're doing that is, first of all, providing training for staff at the high schools to understand the importance of the high school college math pathways, particular to areas of interest. So to make sure that students are on the right math pathway, if they're, for example, interested in a STEM career, or if they're interested in a liberal arts career, what does that math component look like so that they don't take extra credits or they don't get off the, or they don't get on the wrong path early on. And then the two other major components is we work with this group to build out pathways from the high school into our curriculum. And so we're working on curriculum templates for that alignment. And so, for example, right now we're working on our refrigeration and cooling programs, as well as our networking and IT programs, certified nursing assistant, culinary, as well as our general education core curriculum credential, which is basically a credential where students can earn all of their gen eds that are part of a degree and transfer to a four-year university without losing any credits. They can transfer the whole package. And then finally, we have a Power of 15 group, which is one of our working groups. And because of all the work they've done to increase the number of students that can earn dual credit while in high school, we've seen that students that earn dual credit have increased GPAs, they complete more college credit, they have increased fall-to-fall persistence when they come to Harper, and their 3-year graduation rate is double that of students that don't earn any dual credit. So it's a significant impact in terms of creating those pathways. And then I just want to mention one of our recent innovations, not necessarily a new idea, but recently we launched College Now, which you may have heard about. We're starting in fall 2026. Students can apply for and earn their high school diploma and an associate in arts degree while they're in high school. So when they graduate, they will have both the high school diploma as well as a degree in associate of arts from Harper College. And then I know Jeff wanted to mention something.
Thank you, Ruth. Good evening, everyone. Two things we need now more than ever are the League of Women Voters and libraries. So thank you very much for that. Yes, shameless plug gets applause. No, but seriously, I can't stress enough, Harper serves all or parts of 23 communities in the northwest suburbs, nearly 540,000 people in that service district. So we have a real opportunity to be the community's college, the convener between the high schools, between the community colleges, between the 4 years, and between our workforces. And we take that extremely serious. And I just wanted to underline this Northwest Education Council for Student Success, because when we talk to our peers about this, they're so surprised that we're able to break down the silos and bring our high school partners together to have these kind of conversations around curriculum, around pathways, because for us, that's what it's all about. It's about making generational change and providing economic mobility, and the only way we can do that is by shortening the path, making the path more efficient, meaningful, and getting folks into those careers. And so a partnership like Nexus in the Northwest suburbs is a leader nationally, and we're incredibly lucky to have that. And we really appreciate our high school partners being a part of that.
Thank you. Those are wonderful descriptions and comments of the districts. Are there any other innovations that are going on that you might want to highlight? I know we talked a little bit about the dual language, about the technology, and I'm wondering, how do you get input from the community? I know that wasn't one that we prepared you for, but how are you getting input from the community to have these different types of curriculums or workshops and things? Dr. Ruth?
Yeah, I'd like to answer that. Well, one, we just went through a strategic planning process, which included community dialogues, and so we invited community partners, employer partners, to learn more about the needs of our district and the employers in our district, as well as our community members. I will also say we are also used to inform our curriculum business and industry leadership teams, which is a team that's process for developing curriculum that's recognized by the National Science Foundation. And that built model basically brings employers and works directly hand in hand with faculty to identify the needs for employers to help us develop the curriculum. And out of that, we have developed artificial intelligence and cybersecurity curriculum, which has been approved. Cybersecurity we've been offering for over a year, and then artificial intelligence we'll start offering this spring. And that can go all the way from community education. They can start in community education about cyber and AI, move to our continuing professional education, and then into credit. So we have an entire pathway for whatever level of learning that a community member is interested in.
Thank you. Nick?
Do you want to go? Okay. So stakeholder input is crucial, right? And so having that communication with the board, with our staff, right, needs to happen to have a well-functioning district all around. But curriculum as well too, right? And so we have board subcommittees, right, that have parent voice on it and voice of various stakeholders throughout the community. PTAs are never quiet as well too, as myself and wife are a member of our PTA, and a lot of folks I know in the room were too, because it's important to know through those lenses, how the how students are doing with the current curriculum, right? And then, of course, the parent and student voice as well. And so I kind of alluded to it. We're in 54, we engage with student leaders, right? And we have a student ambassador program, right? Superintendent's youth advisory counselor and each of our junior highs, right? So at the end of the day, is it working for them? Is the product, is the curriculum, is the scaffolding of that curriculum, if students are struggling, those interventions, right, those enrichment programs, dual language programs, the specific needs of our special needs students, are they being met, right? And constantly having that feedback loop to make sure that's happening.
All right, thank you very much. Samantha, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, two quick examples from District 15. So one, we created a portrait of a graduate, which is essentially saying when a student exits District 15, what are the skills and competencies and mindsets that we want to ensure are instilled in our students as they're entering our high school districts. And that the committee that worked on that was representative of our board members, the high school, our educators, parents, teachers. We had a couple student representatives, local community leaders. So we had a broad range of perspectives to say, when we think about our vision, our end goal as a district, what does that student look like? Give input into that, which obviously shapes the curricular decisions we make. The other that has been really exciting this year, Dr. Hines launched student advisory committees, which are groups of students at each of our middle schools where she has meetings. They give feedback about the district, what's going well, what should be changed in their schools. And so she's gotten a variety of interesting feedback there as well.
Thank you. I think that's really important to have the community engaged. Our next topic is social emotional learning. So we're going to ask what activities and actions is your district or the college taking to support the social emotional learning? What steps are you taking to help students develop healthy ways of expressing those emotions? And what struggles are you seeing right now that need to be addressed? And then the last point would be, how have the students' needs changed over the last couple of years? And we'll start with Nick, please.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so as an educator, I see this every single day with our students, right? And our staff as well, too, of the pressures that we're seeing in our schools every day, right? 54 has addressed this head-on with an SEL specifically targeted curriculum that's based on the Illinois SEL standards that you'll have a copy of here in a second, right? Students are engaged in these SEL lessons, right? The first 15 days of school are directed each year to building those relationships, fostering those connections among students, showing what respect and responsibility and being safe in the schools are about, right? For oneself, right? And for others. And there's targeted professional development associated with that, too, that social emotional learning. Because I can tell you, when I went to school to be a science teacher, there wasn't a lot of education on how do you teach SEL, right? So to be able to go through that PD to understand how can I help my students who are struggling, because the worst thing is when they're in front of you, right, and you don't know what to do, and the parents don't know what to do, and it's a crisis. And so who comes to the rescue? The education system, right? The schools. What can we do to help our students? We use something called the personal assessment of core competency, where we have students, teachers, parents, and guardians filling these out, this particular test out, right, to really target around core competency ideas of optimistic mindset, collaboration, communication, leadership skills, critical thinking, and self-regulation, right? So these are some of the important things, and I think, Anna, I can come back to some of the other questions on struggles, right? Okay, so thank you.
Samantha? Since we're on the elementary, we'll start there.
Sounds good. So a few things in District 15, like Nick shared, we also have a pretty robust SEL curriculum. That's been an investment that we've made over the last few years of really building that out. We also implemented several years back cultural and linguistic responsive curriculum, and that was coaching that was given at each of our schools on how to support classrooms in building those relationships and honoring and celebrating each other's cultures and backgrounds, and building those effective collaborative relationships in their classrooms. We also did a lot of work around standardizing some of our classroom management practices. So students would go from one classroom to the other and wouldn't necessarily have similar ways of operating, and that can feel very just disjointed for young people. And so that has been something we've really focused on. Another has been, we've been piloting in a few of our schools some restorative practices. And this is really focused on building relationships with students, problem solving, having educators and adults in the school be more facilitators of that problem solving versus solving the problems for the students when it comes to those interpersonal challenges that they have. The other piece, I will never forget one of my early board meetings when I was first seated. We had a presentation from the district that really showed, especially post-COVID, the significant increase in mental health challenges. And they showed a graph that showed the increase in suicidal ideations and suicidal interventions that we've had to have with our students. And reminded, we are a K-8 district. So we are talking about very, very young people having very significant challenges that they are navigating. I went to a funeral of one of our students. That I will never, ever forget. And we have done a lot of work to make sure that we have mental health interventions early, and so that we are getting in front of students. We have risk assessments that students take, and we're able to identify some of those markers earlier on so that we can have our clinicians. We've expanded our clinician teams in our schools to make sure that they have the staffing that can support these interventions. So, certainly when we we talk about social and emotional learning, there is the component of how do you build relationships with your classmates and how do you navigate, the social aspect of that. And there's another around how do you stay safe, how do you maintain your mental well-being as a student as well, that have, pretty significant repercussions if we don't catch those things early.
Thank you. Ruth?
So as I mentioned before, we have our Nexus group, and on there, one of our working groups is social emotional learning. So again, with the high school faculty and counselors, as well as then Harper employees working together. And on that, they basically are sharing resources, are we sharing the same community-based organizations that we work with, referral agencies, what processes we have. We also make sure that we connect with those individuals so they understand when they're talking about Harper and coming to Harper, that the students and their families know what resources are available at the college to support them. And that kind of speaks to, for example, we know students' social and emotional well-being is really about holistic support, wraparound support. And so we have our Hawks Care Resource Center, which addresses students' basic needs. So a food pantry, a clothes closet, a caring clothes closet, transportation services, referrals to community-based organizations for other basic needs. And as part of that is also mental health therapy. So in 2019, the state of Illinois passed the Mental Health Early Action on Campus Act, and it was implemented in 2020 and basically mandated that all 2- and 4-year institutions of higher ed had to develop programs for awareness and training, peer support, and connecting students to mental health services on and off campus. And so we are building that out right now with peer-to-peer mentoring programs. And we also have a buddy program, which pairs new students with a buddy on campus to help that transition to college. The students just organized a National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, chapter on campus. We have a number of online WellTrack, for example, which is a self-guided interactive way to manage your mental well-being. We also have an anonymous online peer support community called Togetherall. We offer a number of group workshops, so not just individual mental health therapy, but also group, so coping with traumatic events, stress management, mindfulness, and relationships. We have 2 student programs on campus through our Access and Disability Services, which helps neurodiverse students or students with disabilities transition to college. And then I also heard training, right? Faculty professional development, and how do we prepare faculty in the classrooms for challenging situations in the classroom management. We're having how to handle civil discourse, conversations in the classroom, and then fostering inclusive belonging. And so you're going to do needs. You want to add anything?
I'll just add one thing. Our president, Dr. Proctor, talks a lot about a term, I don't think she coined it, but she references it a lot, which is VUCA, V-U-C-A, that we're living in a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, right? And that's our students, our faculty, our staff, and our community members. So this conversation around social emotional learning is incredibly important. That's why, as Dr. Williams mentioned earlier, we have a new strategic plan, and one of the goals is around building a supportive and inclusive community on campus. And so we know when we can make that a focus of the work that we do, as Dr. Williams said, when we support our students, when we wrap our arms around them, we know that they will do better in their coursework. So, but we are in a VUCA world, and we're dealing with that every single day, as you are. And so it makes it incredibly challenging to do the work that we're trying to do.
Great, thank you. And as you pointed out, there has to be consistency of support and education. And then you also pointed out of speaking the language of our young people, and not just the language of their culture, but also age-appropriate language is important, of being able to communicate with the kids. Are there any specific struggles that you're seeing right now with our students, or maybe with our staff, or even the parents of our students?
I would like to add one. I think our undocumented students and our mixed status families are struggling, particularly with what's going on in the environment and how that impacts them when they show up to the class. but that's not only for our students, but also our employees. And so we're seeing that and how that's impacting how they show up and if they can show up. I also say basic needs, right? Costs are increasing, and then the uncertainty, as Jeff mentioned, of what's going on. So, for example, we're preparing for the loss of SNAP and how that's going to impact how we serve our students to make sure that we're prepared for that. But we continue to support our students financially, obviously through our federal financial aid, but we also have a really extensive foundation. I think I heard this morning, over $2 million for 1,300 students in scholarships. So we have extensive financial support that way, but they are experiencing that as well. So I would say those are the main struggles that we're seeing right now.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Okay. So if students do not come to school, they can't learn, right? So having our students in the preschool ages, right, showing signs as they come into kindergarten that they haven't had any preschool or prior early childhood learning. So 54 has addressed that with Kindergarten Pro Social Skills curriculum, where it gets students not only ready for the academic skills that they need in the kindergarten years, but also social skills, friendship skills, how to deal with aggression, right, stress. You think of kindergartners, there's a lot of stress. They are. It's coming to school. Mine's in first grade right now, and it's a big transition from that kindergarten year to first grade, right? School refusal. We're seeing that. As a high school educator, just the stress of coming to school for some students is too much for them. So we have networks throughout 54 to how do we, go out and say you're welcome here. We want you here. This is important. We're going to support that attendance goal of you coming every single day, because that's how learning occurs with you in this building, right? And then finally, as we talked about here, it's a major impact when those federal dollars don't come in, right, to feed our students, right? So having the resources from our community is huge. 54 has set up food pantries, in our buildings through our District 54 Foundation. We have a crisis fund for these students that are in need, right? And we partner with the township. I know has great resources, an area community organization. So please, in this time, give to those organizations, because we have many, many students in our area that's in need and going to be in crisis here in a few weeks. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Very briefly, I would just echo something that Dr. Williams said around particularly our Latino and Spanish-speaking families. We have, especially in the northeast part of Palatine, we have a significant Latino population, and we have students who come to school and aren't sure if their mom or dad will be home when they get home. And that is a real impact, obviously, for that family, but when you think about a child being able to learn under that kind of stress, is going to be a significant barrier. So we've had attendance challenges because of that, and so that will continue to be an issue that we have to navigate. Another thing that we've just seen across the board have been increased in behavior challenges. That is certainly was happening pre-COVID. COVID skyrocketed that. And so that has been a significant challenge that certainly our educators have to navigate on a daily basis. We've had to increase professional development on how to manage those situations. We have increased anxiety, emotional dysregulation, technology and cell phones and social media are exacerbating that. So there's a lot of factors involved, but that is something that as a district we're really working through. How do we support our educators as well as our students and families in navigating those challenges?
Thank you very much. Our next topic is school safety. And what systems do you have in place to keep students and staff safe? And are there any new threats that you're seeing at the schools? And we'll start with Ruth, please.
And then pass it to Jeff.
Oh, we'll start with Jeff.
Ruth is passing it to me. No, we didn't plan ahead, so. Yeah, so I think that's a really good question. Harper has an on-campus sworn armed police force, and it's a fully Illinois law enforcement accredited police department. We're part of the Northern Illinois Police Alarm System Mutual Aid Network. We have a risk management team that works with our police department to assess the safety on campus, to conduct drills and tabletops. Our leadership teams have gone through the National Incident Management System training and the Incident Command System, and we're drilling on a regular basis to make sure that we're ready and able to respond to crisis situations as they come up. We've made our board, and I want to compliment both Nick and Samantha. Ruth and I are administrators, but Nick and Samantha are volunteers on their boards, and we benefit from a great board as well, and so thank you for volunteering. But our board has made significant investments in improving safety on campus, both from a physical standpoint, from an infrastructure standpoint, from a digital standpoint. And in terms of emerging threats, I think that's where we're really seeing some real areas of concern, digital attacks, whether it's phishing scams or fraudulent activity. We're seeing a lot of issues with fraud in financial aid right now. And so we're constantly having to work on the digital resiliency of our students and our faculty and staff, because it only takes one person clicking on one wrong link to all of a sudden you've got a major issue. And so we're always having to remind our staff and faculty to take that training, and then of course our students, right? Because unfortunately we've had a few instances where students have been taken advantage of, and that we absolutely don't want that. So we've really stepped up our digital literacy training and skill opportunities for our students. But I would say that's a real area of continued concern is the digital realm in terms of threats. Ruth, I don't know if you want to add anything. Oh, good. I did a good job.
Great. Samantha or Nick?
So in District 15, I would categorize our safety measures in a couple of ways. One is more on the deterrent and responsive when issues arise, and the other is around preventative. So on the deterrent and responsive, so a couple of years ago we passed a referendum. For those that, if you are part of our community and voted for that, thank you very much. One of the things that it helped us do is strengthen our security of our buildings, and that included adding additional external and interior cameras so that we are more able to monitor our schools and campuses. Another that we invested a lot of resources in was making sure that we had what are called secure vestibules. So when you think about entry, that there are multiple, you have to get through multiple doors and be buzzed into multiple doors before you are able to enter the school building. That was a significant investment. We had to do construction on multiple schools across the district in order to make sure that every school had that. We have other, different tactics and procedures, like we have a visitor management system that assesses individuals, whether they're on a sex offender registry, things like that. We have 911 connected phones in every single classroom, so no matter if there is an incident that occurs anywhere in our buildings, you are immediately able to connect with 911 and our law enforcement. We have school resource officers. Every single classroom door is locked and closed throughout the entire day. So there's a lot of different practices that we've invested in on that front. On the preventative side, I know I talked a little bit about mental health previously, but one of the biggest things that we can do to ensure the safety of our students is investing in mental health support. And so that has been a critical component of our work in District 15, of making sure both our staff have access to mental health support as well as our student body.
So Samantha, I should have gone before you, because ditto. I mean, she took my notes. Everything. So, and I think that for a reason I say that is because that's the playbook that I think every administrator, every school district personnel, school board members have seen. And the importance of one of our greatest, if not the greatest, responsibility is ensuring our students and staff are safe every single day, right? So a lot of the things that you have, just a quick aside here, I teach at a local high school, and a loaded gun was found in the bathroom right next to my classroom, right? And so luckily everyone was safe, and we were able to get the situation under control, and the partnership with the local law enforcement was huge at the time. But that's unnerving. right? Extremely unnerving to think about, okay, how did that happen? What are the steps that are taken in place? The board of my school district did a great job of investigating that. What do we do next time? How are these various steps? So this preventative piece, right? And, right, the retrospective piece about what can we do to keep our students safe every day. So, Illinois Safety Drill Act, my kids came home the other day and said, oh, well, now I know what happens in a lockdown. First grader has said that, right? Now I know what I should do when I don't go in the hall when this is said over the system, right? And so it's sad we have to do these things, but the safety of my students, right, of our students, our community, our staff, has got to always be number one. So I'm glad to see that many of the things that Samantha talked about definitely happened in 54, and I know districts throughout the area, so thanks.
Thank you. That will take us to our next discussion, which is funding. So we'll kind of look at it in two different ways. Now, how does your district approach the funding of your programs and buildings, and looking at the real estate taxes and what evidence-based funding is? And then we can talk a little bit about the Department of Education and what they may or may not be doing. And I would like to start with Jeff, possibly.
Absolutely, thank you. So in terms of funding for Harper College, we have a mix of funding, primarily property taxes, tuition and fees. So 52% property taxes, 36% tuition and fees, 7% state funding, and then the remainder comes from investments, rentals, service fees. We're a AAA bond rated institution, and we really focus on passing only balanced or surplus budgets. We really prioritize efficiency and technology solutions over adding headcount. Samantha thanked her taxpayers just a moment ago, and I'd be remiss if I didn't do the same in terms of how we fund buildings on campus. Our taxpayers approved in 2018, a no tax rate increase referendum, and so thank you for that. And those are funding major projects like our new student center and university center on campus and our business and social sciences building. So in terms of, you asked a question about how will we be impacted by a reduction of some of the funds from the Department of Ed. We're already being impacted. We had $3 million Hispanic Serving Institution grant that we were notified about a month ago that funding is being discontinued, and unfortunately that's going to impact some pretty critical programs that we were working on that were benefiting all of our students, geared towards financial literacy primarily. And then I would say in terms of Pell, we have last year, or the 23-24 school year, we had over 3,100 Harper students receiving right around $12 million in Pell awards, with an average of about $4,000 a student. So pretty big impact in terms of federal funding. And so we're doing everything we can at the federal level and at the state level with our partners to advocate for continued funding of higher education. Ruth, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, and we continue to watch what's going on at the federal level, because there are potential additional losses through our Perkins and adult ed funding, both at the federal level, and then the state funding we get is federal pass-through. So that could be significant losses, which would impact how we serve our community if that funding is lost.
Sure. So this is Nick Scipione opinion, not District 54, but we have the way education's funded, right, in my mind is broken, right? Balancing everything on the backs of local taxpayers, right, is not the answer to how we fund education. So 85% of the funding in District 54 comes from local funding, right, our property taxes, 10% from the state, right, and then 5% in federal funds. So to freeze 5% of a $315 million budget is a significant impact, right? To not fund at the mandated level, at the state level, at that 10% coming to the district for transportation and other costs, mandated categoricals, is a significant impact, right? And then not getting tax bills out in time is a significant impact, right, on local districts. And then they say, good luck, go get them, go educate those students, right? So District 54 has taken this seriously. seriously and said, what can we do to make sure our students are ready and have the level of education that they deserve in this time, right? So these funding pressures are real and something that we have to address. And you might say, well, those dollars came available from the federal level. He just froze it, and they're playing the games with special ed and getting rid of the Department of Ed, right? Well, let me tell you, as a CTE teacher, career and technical education, right? We had to put on hold, if not actually shut down some of our internship programs and our engineering fields because we didn't know where those funds were coming and what projects we can do with some of those students. Now they came, and they came last week, right? But we started school in August, right? So there's significant impacts with that as well too. So at the end of the day, it's really important that for just to give you a couple numbers, 2.7 million Title I are low-income students, right? And when we have Title I schools in our school district. IDEA, which is the special education, 4.7 million. It's a rising population in District 54 because people move in to District 54 because of our phenomenal special education programs, right? So when those funding impacts happen, right, good old local taxpayers, good luck, go get them, right? Because we're not just going to cut our special needs kids. We're not going to say to our low-income kids, sorry, we don't care about you, right? That's not what 54 is about, I think.
All right, well, this is my question to say ditto and echo everything that Nick said. District 15 has a very similar breakdown. We're about 80% funded by property taxes. 80% of our expenditures are to staff. And so that is a significant, when we face major budget shortfalls or revenue shortfalls, that impacts the amount of people that we can staff in our schools and our district office that are supporting our schools. On the piece of the federal government, I think, right now, our federal grants, there was obviously a lot of back and forth over the summer about whether or not we were going to get them. At least for this year, we are planning to get all of the revenue for the most part, except for the loss of ESSER funds, which ran out, which was a post-COVID investment. So those funds are now gone. And so, yeah, it's a challenging environment. And that uncertainty had a significant impact on our central district office, who was trying to figure out, where do we pull money from if this funding is cut? What happens? How do we navigate these programs? And when you think about like our IDEA grants and the funding that we need for special education, those are legally required services that we have to provide. So we have to take funding from other places to support that work, as we should. But it just created a lot of kind of chaos, uncertainty, and that was really challenging to navigate. And I imagine we may face that again next year, but we'll see.
All right, thank you very much. I believe we do have some questions.
We have some questions from the audience. You all have very diverse student bodies. How do you deal with the administration's attack on DEI?
All right, who would like to start that one?
Can you repeat that question so the audience can hear it?
All right. You all have very diverse student bodies. Excuse me, let me put the glasses on. All right. How do you deal with the administration's attack on DEI?
Oh, it doesn't matter. Go ahead.
Let Jeff go. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's saying, oh, we'll let Jeff go.
Yeah, that's it. You got it.
And sure, Ruth told me she was going to stay all night to answer questions. No, I mean, what our president has reminded us over and over again is, in our mission, it says, we're here to serve our diverse communities. And so we're staying focused on our mission, and we have a job to do to support our students, to educate our community and be the community's college. And so we are focused on that. We are doing everything that we can to support our communities, to provide training and resource and education, to keep folks safe on campus. And at the federal and state level, we're working with our partners like the Association of Community College Trustees, the American Association of Community Colleges, to advocate for policy and legislation that we know will support our students and build a better workforce. And then we're advocating against policy and legislation that we know is not going to do that. And so I think that's where our focus has been. And we try to, again, it's a VUCA world, right? And so we try to focus on what we can impact and affect, and we're staying focused on our students. The students on our campus are our number one priority, and that's where we're trying to make the greatest impact.
Can I go really just real quick?
yes.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
did you want?
Go, you can.
Okay, just very quickly. State of Illinois has gone back and forth, right, with the Department of Ed and with the, and our policies that we have set, the Illinois Learning Standards, the standards in social emotional learning, focused on belonging of all students, right, is sound and meets the qualifications, right, of what we're doing here in Illinois and at the federal government. Our students need to feel welcomed, right? A student that walks into our school every day needs to feel like they belong and can succeed in their levels. And I think, you know, no one in DC is going to tell us our students can't belong. So.
I think last, very briefly, thing that I would say, we are also staying true to the actual meaning of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is making sure that every student, no matter their background, has access to a great education. And that means that different students are going to need different things, and that is okay. And that should be what we all expect from our schools and our educators and the system that we're all operating in. So I think making sure that we are not translating this to a talking point, that we're actually staying grounded in what it actually means.
Thank you.
Here's a bit of an easier question. What grade level do you start teaching civics? And do students still take a civics test for graduation? And at the college level, I assume you're doing civic classes as well. Can you just go into that a bit for us?
Anna, do you have
Who would
the?
like to start? I could read that again.
No, do you have the question, or do you have the answer for high school? Because I think the civics test in the high school level, Anna, you might know.
It's in the high school.
It's still there, right?
Yeah.
Junior year is still level. And I know in 54, we do have a requirement of students to understand government and physics. Mr. Kaplan here can tell you more about it at the early ages as well, too, because it's important to know government, so in the makings. Sorry.
Yes, it is,
Thank you.
and especially now it's very important, and the kids do get exposed to it, and it's one of those things where the state standards, you teach them early on, and you just keep consistently educating the students as you're going along and adding more information to them.
At the college level, we have a Constitution Day that education around the Constitution, so which is hosted by our business and social science division. We also have a number of classes. We do follow the Illinois Articulation Initiative in terms of the coursework that we offer, particularly in our transfer area. And so they have specific classes in political science and government that students can take that will transfer to the four-year institution. And then we have a number of civic engagement activities that occur throughout the year. And particularly they increase during voting season or voting years. But we do engage quite a bit, including the League of Women Voters joins us quite frequently on campus. I just saw them last week, and I was telling them I love when they come because they have a poster of all the different issues, and I love to see where the students put their sticker in terms of the issue that they're most concerned about, and to see how it changes every time you come. So, but we're, it's very conscientious of that. It's outside, through our student engagement office leads a lot of that work.
All right, we have about time for just one more question.
And since this is a program on education, what programs does Harper have in teacher education, and what four-year universities do you partner with?
Yep, so we have early childhood education, and then we have an education program that leads to secondary and primary education opportunities. So we partner with a number. We have our university center on campus, so students could earn their associate's degree on campus in early childhood and then transfer right on campus and stay on campus. So those students that are place-bound that don't want to travel to a 4-year, they can work with our university partners. I think it's Paul or Roosevelt, I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my head, that has our education program. So they can earn a bachelor's degree through one of our university center partners right on campus. And they get a discounted tuition as well that we've worked out with those institutions. But we are also part of, at the state level, a couple years, in the last 3 years, it's no longer active, but Governor Pritzker's focus on early childhood education and increasing the number of individuals in that field. And so we've done a lot of work about that and created much more robust early childhood education programs and support systems. But we have quite a few pathways to 4-year for education.
All right. Thank you very much. What I'd like to do is thank our panelists and our League of Women Voters for arranging this very informative presentation. And a special thanks and shout out to board members. As it was mentioned, you're elected volunteers. And having done that for 27 years with District 211, it's a wonderful feeling, and it's hard to explain the joy that you get when you're able to see something successful and helping our students. So thank you to Samantha from District 15, Nick from District 54, Ruth from the Harper College, and Jeff from Harper College. We do have some questions that we were not able to get to, so hopefully our panelists can stay for a few minutes, and then our audience who wrote out the questions might be able to come up and ask them. So again, thank you very much. And
I'll turn it off so you don't go flying. Thank you again so much for joining us this evening, both our in-person and online audience as well. And of course, thank you to our panelists and our absolutely wonderful moderator. You guys had an amazing conversation. I think a lot of information was shared tonight. Just so you guys know, we only have one more Civic Awareness Series of 2025, but this one is going to be a fun one because right before Thanksgiving, the Thursday before, we have Braver Angels coming to the Schaumburg Library to run a mini workshop on how to have difficult conversations. So definitely come out for that one. We'll do it in person, and of course we'll have the Zoom audience. Probably the Zoom audience won't get as much interaction as our in-person, so this one might be a special one to come out for. That'll be on Thursday, November 20th. We moved it because we figured the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, no one was gonna come. They were just gonna, risk the conversations at that point. Give you a full week to prepare. So that'll be, again, Thursday the 20th, and then the league takes the December off. They go and they party and have a nice time and celebrate all their accomplishments. And you guys get to too, because it's the holiday season, but we will be back in January. I want to say I should have had this written down. I think it's January 24th or 29th. It's the 4th Tuesday in January. We're starting our Civic Awareness Series once again, and this time we will be welcoming back Paul Lisnick from WGN-TV. He'll be coming back. We loved having him this year, and he'll be doing a kind of a preemptive, getting us prepared for our midterm elections later that year. And then I also have to veer away from the Civic Awareness Series and my wonderful League of Women Voters partnership to shamelessly plug that the Schaumburg Library is spearheading a networking group and a collaboration with about 40 libraries throughout the state of Illinois to do civic empowerment in 2026, because we want to make sure our patrons feel as knowledgeable and engaged and as ready to take on not just midterm elections, but any elections that are coming our way. This will be a quarterly lecture series paired with quarterly tiny little exhibits in these partner libraries. We're kind of hijacking the Paul Lisnick talk as the kickoff for this, but we'll also have a program about navigating news media. In March, we're going to have Paul back on June 30th to do a panel with some local experts on some big topics like presidential overreach, First Amendment issues, etc. And we are planning on wrapping in September with a program on how to best research candidates that are running so that you can walk into your ballot box and feel the absolute most prepared you can. I cannot wait to start that next year, and I hope to see you all at that, as well as every Civic Awareness Series we do. Again, Civic Awareness Series is the 4th Tuesday of the month from 7 to 8 p.m., always offered hybrid for anyone who isn't able to make it in person. So until next time, thank you.